everybody, this is Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, back again for another episode. And this time I'm going to show the Nintendo and Super Nintendo games that I have acquired since I made the decision to get back into retro video game collecting. I'm going to show off both of those systems because I don't own that many since I recently just got back into the collecting. And I also wanted to clear something up from the last video when it came to the collecting complete in box. Back when I really got into the collecting back in 2000, I was not very respectful to the games. I would get the games complete in box and I would just throw the boxes away and just so I can keep the cartridges because I didn't have a whole lot of space. I mean, even when it came to like Sega Saturn games, I would just take the discs out, put them in a jewel case, and throw that gigantic, plastic container away with the backing. So now, I mean, I had some really, really pricey games, well, games that are worth a lot now that weren't worth a lot back then, that I could have made a few bucks on when I decided to sell everything back off. I mean, I had like Ninja Gaiden Trilogy for the Super Nintendo. I had Hagane. I had a whole bunch of really good ones, and I screwed it up. I mean, even for the Sega Saturn, I have Panzer Dragoon Saga, and I just have it in a jewel case because I threw the box away. So, color me an idiot. I was not very bright back then, but I've wisened up in the years since. So now that I am back into the collecting, I am not going to make that mistake again. I'm keeping everything in box, buying the protectors for the boxes and everything. So let's get into the NES games that I have purchased since I got back into collecting. Starting off with Batman for my Sunsoft. Yeah, this is an amazing game. I just started playing it again tonight. I probably haven't played this game since probably around 2001. Game is a lot of fun, and the music is pretty damn good. Dragon Spirit, The New Legend. It's a shooter by Bandai where it's a top-down shooter where you're a dragon, and it's fun. I mean, it could be better, but it's not that bad. I mean, it's okay. Gauntlet. This is the gray cartridge version, but I'm also looking to get a complete in-box copy of the black Tengen cartridge version. But yeah, this has always been one of my all-time favorite arcade games, and I still say that to this day. If I had the means to get an arcade cabinet, I would definitely get a Gauntlet, and that also leads to Gauntlet 2. One of my all-time favorite NES games, Gremlins 2, another one that proves that all movie licensed games do not suck. This one is actually pretty damn good, just like Batman. I mean, the music is amazing. It could also be that it's Sunsoft, so I don't know. But yeah, the music is amazing, the gameplay is great, and the graphics for the time were actually really, really good. And I remember when I had this as a child, I played the living shit out of this, and I beat it I don't know how many times. Classic among classics, The Legend of Zelda. The gold cartridge version. This is probably the most expensive game I've purchased since I got back into collecting. But, it's Legend of Zelda, so I had to have it. Another one of my personal favorites, Life Force. I'm a pretty decent shooter fan, and I remember this is the one that got me into shooting. I remember playing Gradius when that first came out, and I was like, eh. But Life Force was the one that got me into it, basically because the music was really cool, and I thought the idea of being inside like a living being was really neat too. You're fighting like white blood cells and everything. It was just a cool idea. The Mayfat Conspiracy. It's the sequel to Go-Go 13 Top Secret Episode. It's a decent game. It's actually better than the original, as far as I'm concerned. Mission Impossible by Ultra/Konami. This game is hard as hell, but it's a lot of fun. NES Open Tournament Golf. I got this in a set with Gauntlet 2. I bought him in a lot on eBay. So I was like, it could be worse. It could be the original Golf. Another one of my personal favorites that gets absolutely no love. It's a game by Rare, Solar Jetman. This game is a lot of fun, and the graphics are really, really good, and the gameplay is really unique when you get all the gravity effects going on. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't get any love. I don't understand why. And another game that I really liked when I was a kid that gets no love is Solstice. This is by CGI or CSG, sorry. This game has amazing music by I think it's David Wise. And the gameplay, it's like this isometric puzzle platformer game. It's hard and sometimes it's difficult to control, but outside of that, it's a lot of fun. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so you know I had to have Star Trek 25th Anniversary. I remember beating this as a kid, and I had to use Nintendo Power a lot just to get through some of the stuff that goes on in this game because it's kind of vague what you need to do. But the game is a lot of fun, and it does feel like you're playing through a couple of old school Star Trek episodes. It's worth picking up. Another personal favorite, Star Tropics. And this is complete. It has everything, including the letter that you have to dip in water to get the secret message to help you out later in the game. And the funny story that goes along with this was, from way back when I did collect this the first time, I misplaced the letter. And I found it maybe a year ago in a box full of stuff in my storage space. And when I purchased this game on eBay, it didn't come with the letter. So luckily I still had that one on hand, so I ended up making a complete in-box version of it myself. Super Mario Brothers 2! The game that is not really a Mario Brothers game, but is still awesome. Of all the Super Mario Brothers games for Nintendo, this one's probably my favorite. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Hard as hell. But I remember attempting multiple times to play through it as a child. Could not beat it, but I probably will try it again now. Time Lord. I never actually played this before. I think my brother might have rented it back in the day, but I never got a chance to play it. But I remember people telling me that it got bad reviews in the magazines, but people that actually rented it and played it or bought it and played it actually thought it was actually pretty fun. So I decided, what the hell? I got it for cheap. Top Secret Episode, Go-Go 13. Yeah, the game that has the sex scene in it. Actually, a couple sex scenes. It's racy stuff, but the sequel is a lot better, but the story in this one is actually pretty decent. This isn't the greatest game, but Wrath of the Black Manta. It has ninjas in it. I remember liking it as a kid, so I decided to pick it up. And I got it pretty cheap at a local retro gaming store down the street called People Play Games in Chicago. They have a lot of good stuff there at decent prices, so if you're in the area and you're into retro gaming, check them out. And lastly, Yoshi's Cookie. It's a puzzle game. Yeah. I do have one loose game that I kept. Well, actually, it never sold, but I decided to keep it because it is kind of a hard game to find and it is pretty expensive to get in box. So if I can just find a box and instructions for it, I'd be all set, and that is Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu. I'm a huge Jackie Chan fan, so I had to buy this when I found it back in the day, but I really want to find a box and an instruction book for this to make it complete. Okay, and that's it for my Nintendo games, but we'll get into the Super Nintendo ones. This is my favorite game of all time. I made a top 100 game list on Facebook a few years back, and this topped my list, and that is ActRaiser. It's a action game that is also part city simulator, and the music by Yuzo Koshiro in this is flat out amazing. I actually had both soundtracks to this back in the day. Actually, I think around 2000, I found both versions of the soundtrack online. Not only the game soundtrack, but the symphonic version too. But this game is phenomenal. And I was just playing this earlier tonight. I had to show my girlfriend what I've always been talking about for the last few years that we've been dating. And she actually thought it was pretty impressive. I also got F-Zero, awesome racing game. Gradius 3, classic Konami shooter. One of the goals I did have when I first started getting back into collecting, at least when it came to the Super Nintendo games, was I wanted to get all the games that I bought when the system first came out, when I ended up getting it. And those were basically F-Zero, Gradius, and a couple of other games that are coming out, or that are here in the stack later. But I also have Killer Instinct. I have the Killer Cut CD from when I bought this previously back in the 90s. But yeah, this game is still fun. I just wish they had an arcade-accurate version somewhere to play. This is what I call the Diamond in the Rough game, because this game got absolutely zero love when it came out. But I loved the shit out of it, and I bought it just because I liked the movie so much. And it's another one that proves that not all movie license games are shit. And that's the Lawnmower Man. Music in it is amazing. The graphics are great. It plays a little bit like Contra mixed with first-person segments with tons of Mode 7 graphics. It's a ton of fun. And I remember I beat the Genesis version back in the day. I've still never beaten this one because this one's actually slightly harder. But it is a lot of fun. Yeah, the toned-down version of Mortal Kombat. Yeah. Yeah, punch people and sweat pours out. Yippee. But the version of Mortal Kombat 2 that was released for the Super Nintendo was 150 times better, even when it came to the Genesis version. And this one, as you can see, is signed by Daniel Pesina, who played Johnny Cage and the Ninjas, and Philip Ahn, who played Shang Tsung. There was a video game store not too far from where I used to live back when this first came out. I think it was called Software Junction, and they knew a few of the people that were involved in the game, and they had a signing when the game first came out, and I was lucky enough to get over there and get it signed. I do remember they were not the nicest people I've ever met, especially Daniel Pesini. He was kind of a dick. But I'm not sad sorry that I went. It was actually kind of cool. Pilot Wings. That's another of the ones I bought when the game or the system originally came out. Super Empire Strikes Back. You know, these games were 150 times better than the ones that came out for the Nintendo, I swear. Here's another one that I bought when the system first came out, and that is Super Off-Road. It's a pretty fun game with some really good music. Super Return of the Jedi. As you can tell, I went for all the Star Wars games. This is another one that I bought when the system first came out. And that's Super R-Type. Another really good shooter with really good music. And it's still pretty fun. It's just really, really hard. And, of course, Super Star Wars. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan anymore. I'm not as big into Star Wars as I used to be, but I had to have those because those are still actually really good games. Tetris 2. It's a puzzle game. Classic Wing Commander. Remember, I hated this when it first came out back in the day. Mainly because of the company that made it. I had a grudge against them. I'll describe that in a later episode. So, you know, every one of these other guys that do retro gaming collection videos or whatnot, like, you know, the Angry Video Game Nerd and Michael B. the Game Genie and all them, they all have a specific company that makes games that they despise. Like the AVGN guy hates anything by LJN, and Michael B. hates Acclaim. I hate Mindscape, but it's a personal reason, which I'll get into later. It's coming, so you have something to look forward to. And lastly, I have Zoop, which is another puzzle game I got for extremely cheap. I also have a Famicom game, or a Super Famicom game, that I've held on to because it's in box, and that is one of the Ranma 1/2 games. This one is one of the fighting games. It's not the role-playing game, but since it is a fighting game, I decided to keep it because you don't really need... I don't care what they're saying in the little cutscenes in between matches. I just want to fight. This is not the one that was turned into Ranma 1/2 Hard Battle that actually was translated for the US. This is the sequel to that one, which is a lot better, actually. And it's a lot of fun. I just need to repurchase a adapter to be able to play this on my Super Nintendo, or just buy a Super Famicom, whatever. So, that's it for my NES and Super Nintendo collections. I have purchased some more, which will be coming, and I'll do a pickups video for those later. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you keep watching. This is Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, signing off.